For 27 years, I woke up every morning feeling like someone had replaced my neck with rusted metal. The pain radiated from the base of my skull down between my shoulder blades, a constant reminder of what war had taken from me. Doctors prescribed pills. Physical therapists gave me exercises. Chiropractors adjusted me. Nothing worked, not really. I was starting to believe this was just my life now. Until I discovered something so simple, so obvious, that I almost dismissed it. That was 3 years ago. Now, at 73, I move with more freedom than I had at 50. I'm Jack Harmon, Vietnam veteran, retired postal worker, and someone who finally found relief from chronic neck pain. This is my story. I enlisted in the Army in 1969, just a kid from rural Pennsylvania who'd never been more than 50 miles from home. 11 months later, I was humping a 70-pound rucksack through the jungles of Vietnam. Day after day, mile after mile, with that weight pulling on my shoulders, neck, and back. During a routine patrol near the Cambodian border, our unit took fire. I dove for cover, landing hard on my right side, my helmet slamming against my neck. I felt something give way, not a break, but a tearing sensation that shot white-hot pain down my arm. Field medic patched me up, gave me some pills, and 2 days later I was back on patrol. That's how we did things back then. You didn't complain. You pushed through. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Our drill sergeant used to bark at us. So I ignored it. For decades. When I came home in 71, I was just grateful to be alive. I got a job at the post office, married my high school sweetheart Linda, and we had 2 beautiful daughters. Life moved forward, but that pain came with me. By my mid-40s, what had started as occasional discomfort had become a constant companion. Every morning, I'd wake up and immediately check how bad it was going to be that day. On good days, it was a dull ache that I could mostly ignore. On bad days, and there were plenty, it felt like someone had replaced my vertebrae with broken glass. I remember my youngest daughter's college graduation in 2001. Should have been one of the proudest days of my life, watching her accept her diploma. Instead, all I can remember is the pain. It had been particularly bad that week. I couldn't turn my head to see her walk across the stage. Linda had to nudge me and point. I missed that moment because I couldn't move my neck. That night in the hotel room, I broke down. Not in front of Linda. I went into the bathroom, turned on the shower to mask the sound, and I cried. Not just from the physical pain, but from what it was taking from me. The moments I was missing. The grandfather I couldn't be when our first grandchild was born the following year. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Irritable. Short-tempered. Always distracted by discomfort. The pain was reshaping me, wearing me down like water over stone. Like many veterans, I first turned to the VA for help. The waiting rooms became as familiar as my own living room. The doctors were well-meaning, but overwhelmed. Their solution was predictable: medication. Anti-inflammatories at first, then muscle relaxers, then painkillers. The pills helped for a while, but they brought their own problems. The stronger ones made me foggy, disconnected. I'd fall asleep in my recliner mid-conversation. I gained weight because I wasn't moving. My blood pressure went up. 1 medication to solve a problem, 3 more to deal with the side effects. In 2005, I had my first MRI. The technician slid me into that narrow tube, and for 45 minutes, I lay perfectly still while that machine hammered and clanked around my head. The diagnosis: degenerative disc disease, herniated discs at C5, C6, and C6, C7, bone spurs, and arthritis. This is just age-related degeneration, the neurologist told me, barely looking up from my chart. It's normal for someone your age, especially with your military background. Normal. There was nothing normal about not being able to turn your head to check traffic before changing lanes. Nothing normal about having to turn your entire body to talk to someone sitting next to you. I tried everything. Physical therapy twice a week for months. Chiropractic adjustments that would help for a day or two before the pain crept back. Acupuncture, which I was skeptical about but willing to try. Those tiny needles offering temporary relief but no lasting change. Massage therapy that felt wonderful during the session but left me even sorer the next day. I spent thousands of dollars, money we really couldn't spare from our retirement savings, on treatments that promised results but delivered disappointment. It was my grandson, Tyler, who inadvertently led me to what finally worked. He was 14 at the time, always hunched over his phone or computer games. During one of our Sunday dinners, Linda commented that he was going to end up with a neck like Grandpa's if he didn't sit up straight. I recognized myself in his posture, head forward, shoulders rounded. I'd spent decades sorting mail at the post office, hours each day looking down at letters and packages. Even in retirement, I was constantly looking down, at books, at the newspaper, at my phone. That night, I couldn't sleep. The pain was particularly bad, a 7 out of 10. I got up around 2 a.m., careful not to wake Linda, and went to the living room. Out of desperation, I opened my laptop and typed, "Neck pain, head forward position." What I found changed everything. I discovered something called forward head posture, or text neck, a condition where your head shifts forward from its natural alignment above your spine. For every inch your head moves forward, it adds 10 pounds of pressure on your neck and upper back. My head was probably 2-3 inches forward most of the time. That's an extra 20-30 pounds my aging spine had been supporting for decades. I fell down a rabbit hole of research that night. By morning, I had printed out articles, exercises, and something called postural awareness techniques. Linda found me asleep in my recliner, papers scattered across my lap. "Jack," she said, shaking me gently awake. "Have you been up all night?" I looked up at her, and for the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten: hope. The solution wasn't a pill or a procedure. It wasn't something I could buy or something a doctor could prescribe. It was something so basic, so fundamental that I'd overlooked it completely: proper alignment. I started with what experts call the chin tuck exercise. It's deceptively simple. You gently draw your head back, giving yourself a slight double chin, keeping your gaze level. It feels awkward at first, unnatural even. But it aligns your head properly over your spine, taking pressure off those damaged discs and irritated nerves. I set reminders on my phone to do this exercise every hour. 10 repetitions, holding each for 10 seconds. It took less than 2 minutes each time. But the exercise alone wasn't enough. I had to change how I held myself throughout the day. I raised my computer monitor so I wasn't looking down. I held books and my phone at eye level instead of in my lap. I became obsessive about my sitting posture, using lumbar supports and rolled towels to maintain the natural curve in my lower back. I started using a special pillow designed to support the neck's natural curve while sleeping. It was uncomfortable at first. I'd gotten used to my old position, but I forced myself to stick with it. The hardest part wasn't the exercises or the posture adjustments. It was the constant mindfulness required. After decades of bad habits, my body naturally wanted to return to what it knew. I had to consciously correct myself hundreds of times a day. Linda became my accountability partner, gently tapping my shoulder whenever she noticed my head drifting forward. Tyler, my grandson, thought it was hilarious that Grandpa was now the one being told to sit up straight. And here's the thing that really made the difference. Consistency. I didn't miss a day. Not one. Rain or shine, good day or bad, I did my exercises, checked my posture, and maintained awareness. For 3 weeks, I saw no improvement. The pain was still there, still intense. I almost gave up. But something, stubbornness, desperation, or maybe just the military discipline that had been drilled into me, made me continue. Then, around week 4, I noticed something. I could turn my head a few degrees further to the right without pain. It was such a small improvement that I thought I might be imagining it. But by week 6, there was no denying it. The constant ache had reduced from a 7 to a 5. I could look over my shoulder when backing up the car. I could watch TV for an hour without having to constantly shift positions. As I started seeing results, I realized that posture was just one piece of a larger puzzle. I needed a more comprehensive approach to truly heal decades of damage. I added gentle stretching to my routine, not the aggressive, no pain, no gain stretches I'd tried before, but slow, careful movements that respected my body's limitations. I focused especially on the scalene muscles, the levator scapulae, and the upper trapezius, neck and shoulder muscles that had become tight and shortened over years of poor posture. I discovered that strengthening was just as important as stretching. My physical therapist had tried to tell me this years ago, but I hadn't been ready to hear it. Now I understood. My weak neck and upper back muscles weren't supporting my spine properly. I started with isometric exercises, gentle resistance without movement, and gradually progressed to light weights. Hydration became a priority. I'd never been good about drinking water, usually opting for coffee throughout my postal route. But I learned that the discs in our spine are mostly water. They need proper hydration to maintain their cushioning effect. I started carrying a water bottle everywhere, aiming for 8 glasses a day. I also had to address something I'd been reluctant to admit. I was carrying extra weight, and it was straining my spine. Nothing dramatic, about 30 pounds more than my doctor recommended. I didn't go on a crash diet, but I started making small changes. More vegetables, smaller portions, walking in the evenings with Linda instead of sitting in front of the TV. Sleep became sacred. I'd been getting by on 5 or 6 hours for years, a habit from my working days. But I learned that our bodies do most of their healing during deep sleep. I committed to 7 to 8 hours each night, keeping to a consistent schedule even on weekends. And perhaps most difficult for a stoic old veteran like me, I had to learn to manage stress. The connection between stress and physical pain is real. When we're tense, we tighten muscles, especially in the neck and shoulders. I started practicing simple breathing exercises, nothing fancy, just slow, deliberate breaths when I felt tension rising. I'd love to tell you that from that point on, everything was perfect, that the pain disappeared completely and never returned. But that wouldn't be honest, and if there's one thing my military service taught me, it's the value of honesty. There were setbacks, days when the pain flared up despite everything I was doing right. A particularly bad episode came after I helped my son-in-law move some furniture. I thought I was being careful, but I paid for it with 3 days of intense pain. The old me would have seen this as proof that nothing works, that I was destined to suffer. The new me understood something important. Healing isn't linear. It's more like the stock market, a general upward trend over time, but with plenty of ups and downs along the way. The key was not getting discouraged by the bad days. Instead, I used them as information. What had triggered the flare-up? What could I do differently next time? Each setback became a learning opportunity rather than a defeat. About 6 months into my new approach, I had a follow-up with my VA doctor. He was stunned by the improvement in my range of motion. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," he said. For once, he didn't reach for his prescription pad. That validation from a medical professional meant a lot, but it wasn't what kept me going. What motivated me was being able to pick up my youngest granddaughter without wincing. It was being able to take Linda dancing on our anniversary. It was waking up in the morning and having my first thought be, "What shall I do today?" instead of "How bad is the pain going to be?" About a year into my journey, something unexpected happened. Other veterans at my VFW post started asking me for advice. They'd noticed the change in me, not just physically, but in my demeanor, my energy. At first, I was hesitant. Who was I to give advice? I wasn't a doctor or a physical therapist. But then I realized, sometimes the most valuable insights come from those who have walked the path themselves. So I started sharing what I'd learned. Nothing formal, just conversations over coffee or after meetings. I showed them the chin tuck exercise, talked about postural awareness, explained the comprehensive approach I developed. Word spread. Soon, veterans from other posts were contacting me. A buddy from my old unit, living 3 states away, called after hearing about my improvement from a mutual friend. I found myself creating simple handouts, printing articles, even demonstrating exercises via FaceTime to guys I'd served with decades ago. One day, the post commander pulled me aside. "Jack," he said, "you're helping more vets with that neck thing than the VA is. Ever thought about making it official?" That's how the Upright Veterans program was born. Nothing fancy, just a monthly meeting at the post where I'd share what I'd learned, lead some gentle exercises, and provide a space for veterans to talk about their pain without judgment or platitudes. We're not anti-medicine or anti-doctor. Far from it. We encourage everyone to work with healthcare providers. But we offer something different. Peer support from people who understand the unique challenges veterans face. The stubborn pride that keeps us from seeking help. The habit of pushing through pain because that's what we were trained to do. The program has grown beyond what I ever imagined. We now have groups in 6 states, all led by veterans helping veterans. We've created partnerships with physical therapists who volunteer their time once a quarter to ensure we're doing exercises correctly and safely. The most rewarding part is the letters and emails I receive. Veterans in their 70s and 80s who can play with their grandchildren again. Middle-aged vets who have been able to reduce or eliminate pain medications. Young veterans from more recent conflicts who don't have to resign themselves to decades of suffering. If I could go back and talk to my younger self, that stoic postal worker silently enduring increasing pain, here's what I'd say. Pain is not weakness leaving the body. It's your body communicating with you. Listen to it. The body has an amazing capacity to heal, even after decades of damage, if you give it what it needs. Proper alignment, gentle movement, adequate rest, good nutrition, and hydration. Consistency trumps intensity. Small, sustainable actions performed regularly will outperform aggressive approaches that you can't maintain. Age is not the sole determinant of how you feel. Yes, we accumulate wear and tear as we get older, but that doesn't mean we're destined to live in pain. The mind-body connection is real. How you think about pain influences how you experience it. This isn't New Age nonsense, it's neuroscience. You don't have to do it alone. Seeking help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And perhaps most importantly, it's never too late to start. I was 70 years old when I began this journey. 3 years later, I move better, sleep better, and live better than I did 20 years ago. That's not to say I'm pain-free all the time. I still have occasional flare-ups. I still have to be mindful of my posture and consistent with my exercises. But the pain no longer controls my life. It no longer defines me. Something unexpected happened as my physical pain decreased. I began to address emotional pain I'd been carrying since Vietnam. Pain I hadn't even recognized because the physical discomfort was so dominant. For decades, I'd used physical pain as a distraction from deeper wounds. As long as my neck was screaming at me, I didn't have to listen to quieter voices, the grief, the guilt, the unprocessed trauma of war. As the constant physical pain receded, these emotions began to surface. At first, it was uncomfortable, even frightening. I found myself having vivid dreams about Vietnam for the first time in years. Memories I'd suppressed came floating back during quiet moments. Linda noticed the change. "You're different," she said one evening as we sat on the porch. "Not just the pain. Something else is happening." She was right. I was changing. Healing physically had created space for emotional healing. Through my veterans group, I connected with a counselor who specializes in working with Vietnam vets. For the first time in 50 years, I really talked about my experiences, not the sanitized versions I'd shared at family gatherings, but the raw truth. This part of the journey has been just as important as the physical healing. Perhaps even more so. Because chronic pain isn't just physical, it affects your mind, your relationships, your very sense of self. I've come to believe that physical and emotional pain are intertwined in ways science is only beginning to understand. Addressing one without the other is like trying to sail a boat with only half the sail unfurled. Many veterans carry both kinds of pain. We were trained to endure, to push through, to never show weakness. Those qualities served us well in combat, but they can become obstacles to healing in civilian life. So that's my story. From decades of debilitating neck pain to a life of renewed mobility and purpose. From isolated suffering to leading a community of veterans helping each other heal. All starting with something as simple as tucking my chin and becoming aware of how I hold my head. If you're watching this and living with chronic neck pain, whether you're a veteran or not, I want you to know that there is hope. Your situation may be different from mine. Your path to relief might involve different techniques or treatments. But improvement is possible, even after years or decades of pain. Start with awareness. Notice how you hold your body throughout the day. Pay attention to positions that increase or decrease your discomfort. Consider how much time you spend looking down at screens or devices. Be patient with yourself. Healing takes time, especially when undoing years of habitual patterns. Celebrate small improvements, rather than focusing on how far you still have to go. Build a support system. Share your journey with loved ones who can encourage you and gently remind you about posture. Connect with others experiencing similar challenges, whether online or in person. Work with healthcare professionals, but be an active participant in your care. Ask questions. Research options. Listen to your body's response to treatments. And remember that you're more than your pain. Don't let it become your identity or dictate the boundaries of your life. If you'd like to learn more about the specific techniques that helped me, or about the Upright Veterans Program, visit the link in the description below. We've created free resources for veterans and non-veterans alike, including printable exercise guides and posture reminder cards. I'm Jack Harmon, and at 73, I'm looking forward to the years ahead rather than dreading them. If this old neck of mine can heal after decades of abuse, there's hope for yours too. Thank you for listening to my story.